Hello, this is John with Brainstorm Comics and Gaming, and this is this week's Turning the Page. I am here this week with Chris. Love is a battlefield. You do not have to fight for Chris's time, though. You can pay for it. It does not sound as dirty as it sounds, though. So Chris is a tattoo artist at American Tattoo in Brunswick, Maryland. You want to tell them how to contact you, sir?
My Instagram is Christopher Love Tattoo, and the shop Instagram page is American Tattoo Studio.
And I am giving you many different ways to promote yourself.
So many, so many.
I'm sure you've heard several of these before, though.
Yeah, I have.
So
they still surprise me and make me laugh, though. So I'm okay with it.
So let's move into, before we move into our first topic, let's remind people to LCS, like, comment, and subscribe to the Brainstorm Comics and Gaming
Hit the buttons.
YouTube channel. You can click on the logo in the lower right-hand corner. It will take you to subscribe. We recently reached our 200 subscriber about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Very cool. We were very happy about that. I think we've grown pretty rapidly for since we put some time and effort into the YouTube channel. So, but let's move into the first topic. The comic industry is changing and changing rapidly. They put out the numbers for the latest Dogman graphic novel, and it sold 900,000 copies. What do you feel this will have an impact on in terms of the industry?
I think the industry is in such a weird flux right now, and prices are crazy, and there's people clamoring for books, and there's all kinds of silly shenanigans. But at the end of the day, I feel like we're at a time where comics are kind of taken seriously a little bit, more than in past. So we have stories being told that maybe not would have been told 10 years ago.
So this one's one of the young adult books. It's from the guy who does Captain Underpants, and like I said, 900,000 copies, almost 1 million copies of that in the hands of kids. Mm-hmm. I think it gives a lot of hope that, so a lot of people are like, oh, the industry's dying, print is dying. I think that there's a lot of indicators out there that that's not true. I feel that the fact that Dogman can get 900,000 of a $15 book, shows that parents want their kids to read. It shows that kids want to read. I don't know. I think it's a good indicator for the future of comics. If Marvel and DC can also move into that.
Yeah, I think also we kind of, as collectors, quote unquote, we kind of have blinders on to a lot of things where if it's not like a hot book or a key or something like that that's going to make somebody money, it kind of doesn't get paid attention to in like the immediate community. But I think that we forget that there is a much larger audience that has been exposed to comic books through movies, cartoons, young
video
adult
games.
books, video games. I think there's been a pretty big shift amongst not all of, but a bunch of the companies to make books geared towards younger readers, which I think is great.
Which brings up another point. So Marvel is clearly taking this to heart because right now there is not a Miss Marvel book out there. However, Miss Marvel has had several original graphic novels that are clearly targeted towards the same demographic. They're that digest size. Mm-hmm. While I wasn't a fan of it, not the book, but the format, Strange Academy, when they did the graphic novel, they put it in the digest size, which clearly is to, again, appeal to that demographic. I think that Marvel is doing some very good things to reach out to that group and trying to grow their characters. And if they can sell even 500,000 copies of that graphic novel, that's a lot more copies than what they would have sold of the book. I think the book was topping out at like 45,000 copies a month.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So even if you have 6 of them, you're looking at like 300,000 copies versus if they can get 500,000 out there to readers.
I think Marvel too has taken a pretty big step in that direction in general. They have several monthly titles that are very much geared towards younger readers. Champions, was it Web of Spider-Man, the WEB?
Strange
Academy, yeah. I think they're doing it a lot more, I don't want to say like out in the open and prevalently than like DC, because DC's doing similar things, but I think the direction that Marvel has been going in, as opposed to the direction that DC is going in, is a little more
So
youth friendly and not as dark. I feel like.
well, DC is trying to get a little bit more light and everything. But the 3 books you mentioned, I think, have a key element to it that they used to neglect. And I said this all along. I've said it for 25 years, and I'm glad that somebody is finally doing it the right way. Mm-hmm. And that is, you can't have a young title that is outside of continuity, because if it's outside of continuity, I know everybody thinks kids are stupid. They're not stupid. Yeah. They're like, this isn't Spider-Man. This isn't like
right.
So
right. And I think they're also very slick in the way that, like, if you read Champions, for example, we're talking about Spider-Man, like Miles in Champions is way different than he is in his own book in Miles Morales. That book is definitely geared more towards adults, where Champions is very blatantly like geared towards younger preteen, teen kids. But they're still the same character. Kamala is the same way. You know, there's definitely older, more mature versions of Kamala, and then there's younger versions of her. But still in that same continuity and still very much that same character. I think it's super smart, and I think it's ensuring the future of this thing and print comic books and print media. Because still, I mean, you can read comics online, but it's not the same as holding a book in your hand and reading it itself. I think it's much better that way.
There's just something more natural. At least,
Sure.
I mean, for us, I mean, it might be different for them since they're growing up in a generation that I won't say exclusively, but primarily uses like their iPads or their tablets or what have you.
I think this is a unique situation where, because it's a very much a visual form of storytelling, along with, you know, words, but that like the print versions of comics aren't going to die.
Yeah.
At least I hope.
Plus the collectability aspect of it.
Sure.
You don't have that with the digital, and that is one of the cool parts of like completing your run and things like that.
Yeah, totally.
So tied to this, well, we'll turn the page on this one. Like I said, I think that there's a lot of brightness to the comic book future. We'll turn the page on that topic, though, and move on to the next one, which is still tied to this one. DC has just signed another deal with Walmart. This one is for exclusive young reader content that is new. Initially, when they did their first one, it ticked off a lot of long-term comic book collectors because it was not exclusive, or it was exclusive, but it was still big-name creators and such, and so people were like, why can't I get this at my local comic book shop, sort of thing. So what are your feelings on this?
I think it's great. I think sometimes we have to remind ourselves that, like, we're grown-ups and we can be a little grumpy about things. I think also...
Thankfully, I've avoided that in my life.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Just like I have. I think we also forget that, like, local comic book stores aren't everywhere. You know, every place doesn't have a comic shop that they can readily get to and look at books and buy books, but there's Walmarts everywhere. So for someone who might not have access to comic books the way that I do and we do, being able to go to Walmart as a young kid and pick up a Batman adventure book and read it, I think it's great, and I think it's going to lead to kids growing up and loving comics and buying more comics.
So availability is a huge thing. I mean, comic books used to be available at your 7-Eleven. They used to be available at the grocery store, newsstands, like everywhere. Totally. And that was one of the good things and bad things about the direct market is the direct market started like pushing it towards hobby shops. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, hobby shops enjoyed that because they had pretty much a guaranteed fan base that had to get their stuff from them. But it did kind of hurt future readers because unless they knew about it, unless their mom or dad were into it, an uncle or aunt into it, they were not going to find those places. I guess maybe if a friend was into it also, but their avenues were far more limited like after that than what they had been previously. And I know like Barnes and Noble still has like a spinner rack or whatever in their stores, but it's not the same thing, and it's not a very wide variety. It's mostly Batman, Spider-Man, X-Men, like the big names.
Yeah.
So
I think that it's also it's a good move business wise, but I think that like we also forget as collectors and as people who want rarity and want to have something that's worth money and gonna accumulate in value, that there's also a big push and a bunch of people who want to read comics now. So where you have trade paperbacks and omnibuses and collecting stories becoming far more prevalent and coming out way more than they used to, where
they make a graphic novel of everything. It used to be like really
Totally.
just the good stories.
yeah, now every 5 issues you're going to get a trade of something, whether it sells 1 billion copies or whether it sells 20 copies, somebody's making a trade of it. And I think that solves a lot of issues space-wise, money-wise. A lot of people maybe can't get out weekly to get books or whatever, don't want to invest in single issues.
But it also creates issues. So there are negatives. I'm always torn on the graphic novel thing. There's no way for a store to carry every single graphic novel. So a lot of things get lost in the sauce because of that. I feel like there's too many that are turned into graphic novels. I know DC had announced that they were going to stop doing it like for every single series. I have not seen that yet. It still seems like they're turning. It still seems like they're doing it, but I don't know. But let's go back to the positive stuff. The Walmart.
I thought it was positive.
No, I meant my thing about about there's too many of the graphic novel stuff. Yeah. But I feel like the Walmart thing has the potential to definitely add more readers and expose the characters to.
And I think that's important. Where I think we forget too that a big driver in this industry and in this community is actually reading comic books and enjoying comic books and being excited about them. And not
if you go in those Facebook groups, most of them seem to.
Salty people. The salt level is so high sometimes. But that to me is the darker and the downside of collecting comics, is when everything kind of gets broken down to a dollar amount or a print run or what this book is worth and a rarity or whatever. At the end of the day, they're books and they should be enjoyed, and they're stories that are good and need to be told. So
yeah, there's some great stuff out there.
Oh, totally.
But we'll turn the page on that one. Hopefully we are correct in that, both of those first two topics do help encourage new readers and young readers. Sorry. Encourage
got you all
encourage new readers and to come into the industry and well, I feel like a lot of stores, put up barriers to new readers and it's not my favorite thing in the whole world.
No.
But after all that positivity, let's go to a little bit of negativity. I don't know whether you had heard of the angry girlfriend cover to the Amazing Spider-Man number 14. Apparently it is going on tour. It's going to be at a convention here coming up soon. Coming to a city near you, apparently. I don't know. But it's going to one convention. I think the Heroes Convention.
I think that's what I read. I didn't fact check too hard.
What do you think of the angry girlfriend variants as the?
It's hilarious to me. It's also really funny that it's taken on this urban myth type thing in the community of this comic book that a angry girlfriend wrote a message on and ruined. It's funny that it's slabbed and preserved. It's hilarious. I don't think there's any serious validity to it, but
so my thing for this is if you really start giving credence to this, now you can take almost any book and add an extra layer of collectability to it.
It's the same thing as that guy that got that book signed by Stan Lee all those times.
14 times.
14 times. It's just at this point.
Or 20 sometimes? I don't remember.
It's a parody of itself at this point.
All in different colors.
I mean, the time
Rainbow Stan Lee.
Money invested in that is hilarious to me.
Probably cost him $250 per signature.
I don't know. It's a lot. It was a lot of money to have Stan sign something. So just have him sign it that many times. It's a lot of standing in lines and a lot of money for.
I wonder if he got it all signed at one time. Hey, I'll give you $5,000 if you do it.
You maybe, but Stan wasn't with it there at the end, so
he might. I was gonna say
he forgot. Yeah, maybe he just went with it, and Stan just kept signing the book, and he just kept going. I think it's funny. I don't think that there's any serious validity to it whatsoever. I don't
How
think
can
it's
you say that.
I mean,
you want a copy of it.
You know what? No, I don't want a copy of that because I would be super sad if a significant other ruined my comics like that.
What?
I mean, I probably would have deserved it, honestly, but I don't know if I would slab it and take it on tour.
Well, apparently this has passed from collector to collector.
Yeah,
Like it's been
yeah.
sold
The
a
little
lot
article
of
said that
times.
it was like the urban myth of the community would go from like shop to shop and they would sell it off, and that I think that's funny. That's great, but from a collector standpoint or like a serious standpoint, there's no.
I almost feel like you could do a real tour and go to the comic shop and like charge like $10 or whatever, get your picture taken with it.
You know what? I would probably get my picture taken with that book just for the lull of it, but I don't. Yeah.
Maybe charge $20 and give a free T-shirt with it. Like,
Sure, have your angry girlfriend write on your T-shirt. I guess. I don't know.
So
Good on that guy for making something out of nothing. You know what I mean? Like at least he.
Well, I'm sure he did not get near the money that the recent people are getting because, like I said, it's achieved almost icon status at this point.
I mean, cheers to the shop that bought it. You know what I mean? To have like the foresight to be like, that's hilarious, and pay whatever they paid for it. That's great, I think. But in a serious way or in a way that's going to impact the community, there's no.
I'm gonna have my wife write angry messages on all of my comics.
Yeah.
So we'll turn the page on that topic. And we will move on. We will remind you first to visit our 2 shops. We have one in downtown Frederick. Tons to do down there. Not just to see the comic book shop, but also lots of cool restaurants, a couple record stores, candy shops. Yeah, a little bit of everything down there. Clothing shops also.
Yeah. Embark, there's skate
bars,
shops.
yeah. Breweries.
Lots of breweries.
So lots to do down there. Or if you want more back issues, you want to dig through some long boxes. Chris has finally recovered from a week and a half ago of digging through a couple long boxes.
Yes, all the long boxes.
All the long boxes. So you would want to visit our Walkersville, Maryland location for that. But let's move on to the next topic. And this is another topic that I did not tell you about. So what are the positive things about the industry right now that you like, whether it be about comic book shops, whether it be about comic books in general, or comic book publishers?
I think the big one for me is that like the stigma of like being a comic book collector or somebody who's into comic books has kind of gone away, where you're not like looking.
You don't have to hide it.
Yeah, I mean I never hid it anyway, but it's kind of cool to see. I don't know, regular people, for lack of a better term. I don't know, like people who would probably never pick up a comic book, like now have some kind of knowledge of Marvel and DC stories. And then I think that has led to other things becoming popular and more accepted in society with, gaming and Dungeons and Dragons and magic and whatever, all the other crazy stuff.
So as much as it gets blasted, I think Big Bang Theory did help with that. And I know that it also had some negative stereotypes and stuff in it, but
it did. I think I don't have as big of a beef with that show as a lot of people seem to. I thought it was funny. I watched all of it. It got a little annoying and a little tropey at times, but
towards the end, I think they got mean towards each other. At first, it seemed to be genuine friends and stuff, but over time, it seemed like the characters got more angry with one another. But I think that did a lot to help the.
Definitely. I think you have really good stories being told right now. I think you have really talented artists writing and drawing books. I think that the amount of independent books coming out is stifling on
the variety of genres is astounding. Like it's not just superhero stuff.
I know that I've jokingly complained, especially in the past 2 or 3 weeks, about how many books I've had to buy just because there's so much good stuff coming out that it makes it hard sometimes to pick and choose what you're going to pull. So it's like a negative and a positive. It's like a positively negative. I don't know.
One of my favorite things is Wednesdays. Wednesday mornings are great. I know that you see the same people. We talk about the books that are coming out, not just comics and that sort of thing though, but also it's just general things that we're interested in.
Yeah, I think it's fostered a pretty decent community. Maybe we're just lucky and we have a good community here of folks that come through and like to hang out and talk. So if that's the case, I'm super glad. But I feel like that there's many other places and other avenues for people to come together and discuss and fan out and nerd out about the stuff they care about. So,
Yeah, I mean, you've seen it. Like, people stay for like an hour or so.
Sure. I mean, my Wednesday morning is roached here for 2 or 3 hours. I don't even realize. It's look at my phone. I'm like, I've been here for 3 hours, John. I have to do stuff now.
You wouldn't have it any other way.
No, I'd like rearrange my whole schedule for Wednesdays.
That's true. You cannot reach Chris Love's tattoo artist on Wednesdays.
Not on Wednesdays. That's when I read my books. But yeah, I think that like there's a lot of positive in the industry and in comic collecting, and I think it's a good thing, and I hope it stays this way. I know there's a lot of people that are nervous about what happened in the 90s happening again with like, kind of the crash or the bubble bursting or whatever. I think that maybe we're a little smarter this time.
So going back to the last episode, I think that's the community aspect. Like I said, if you find the right store and stuff, new collectors can definitely like be ingrained in the very, very easily and without making the mistakes that previous people may have made.
It's also easier now to kind of segue into other things that interest you where maybe it wasn't so interested. It like wasn't so available before, where your comic shops have kind of become like your hubs for the kind of things that Dungeons and Dragons, like I said, and Magic the Gathering, Warhammer. So I think if something interests you at this point, there's many avenues to explore that and find a community that fits for you and will make you happy.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to say is like I also feel like the amount of ways that you can get your content is a great. I mean, not just digital and paper, but the movies, like you were talking about, the video games, no matter what you're into, you can get into this sort of.
There's also a ton of companies where you can, mail order books now, where if you don't necessarily have an LCS close to you that you can get to, you can definitely get your books every week and not have to miss stuff. I
will say, as a comic book shop owner, I would say, please go to an LCS though.
If you have, for sure. Most definitely.
I feel like the atmosphere is far different, and your engagement with the industry is far different than.
And you're also you have that availability to maybe get on something that you would have missed.
Yeah.
Shadecraft is one that I totally slept on from jump, and just from talking to the guys in here, that book's great, and I'm glad that I found it.
Well, one of our Wednesday regulars also was primarily a online purchaser, and he is slowly upping his stuff because he comes into the store every Wednesday morning, and I think he gets a different experience. Like I was just saying, a different experience by coming into the shop than
totally. And like I said, I want to think that everybody gets the same experience we do. I don't think that's true necessarily, and it's kind of sad, but I think we are lucky that we have a really good community here. Yeah. Of people who are like-minded and are open and welcoming. And,
well, I like talking to people about comics and everything.
Totally. So do I.
So,
sports, all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
We're not allowed to talk sports anymore, though.
We're a little salty when we talk about baseball in the mornings, but sometimes it's got to happen.
So, we will turn the page on that topic. Like I said, there are tons of great things to be optimistic about and happy about in the industry, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again, because I'm sure since I threw that one at you at the last minute, you probably have more that you'll think of after.
No, it's cool, because I do think that we make fun of people a lot, and we have our opinions about who we think are overrated.
I do want to mention, I meant to mention that during that topic also. Some people may come in when I'm having a conversation with a friend or whatever and hear me say something. I want people to know, if they hear me saying stuff like that, for the most part, I'm just giving the person a hard time, because I know what they like and what they don't like, and again, knowing them on a more personal level and being able to needle them a little bit.
Yeah, it's fun.
I've always been of the opinion, if it makes you happy or whatever, read it, watch it, whatever.
100%.
What other people think of it should have no bearing on you.
We're gonna make fun of you no matter what.
And we expect to be made fun of ourselves.
100, yeah. Give it as good as we take it, or whatever.
No, obviously we don't do that with people we don't know, or
no. sometimes.
We want to get to know people and understand what their personality is before we do that.
Yeah.
We try to be very welcoming to new people, like you were saying earlier.
Unless you like the X-Men, then.
X-Men are my favorite. I can't. So that we'll turn the page on that topic. And we will end this episode there. We want to thank you for watching Turning the Page this week. Don't forget to LCS, like, comment, and subscribe. Brainstorm Comics and Gaming's YouTube channel. Don't forget to visit Chris's Instagram page. You want to give the Instagram one more time?
It's Christopher Love Tattooer.
And where can you be found again?
American Tattoo Studio in Brunswick, Maryland.
And the only day he will not help you out is Wednesday, as he said. He is here.
You can come here and talk to me about tattoos too. That's okay.
We're going to have to set up a booth for you in the gaming room.
Sure. Yeah. I'll take consultations at the store. Yeah.
So thank you for watching. Hopefully you join us next time. Thank you, and see you again.